Welcome to the Smallville Season 11 coverage right here at Comicstorian, your home for your favorite comic books, video games, and movies dramatically read back to you. Smallville Season 11 is a series that continues the Smallville television show beyond Season 10. In the first volume, we learned the new status quo between Lex and Superman. We then went into Volume 2, which featured Batman. Volume 3 featured Bart Allen, aka Impulse. Volume 4 was what happened to Supergirl, and Volume 5 was Wonder Woman. And now we're going into the Monitor and their own crisis here in the Smallville universe. When we last left off, the Monitor had crash landed in Russia, and Lex and Clark Kent went to investigate. So, what's gonna happen next? Back in Metropolis, Chloe looks out the window as Lois enters the room, calling her name. She has a surprise for her cousins. Because Chloe was complaining that she was bored, her and Lois are taking a trip to Gotham. Lois smiles as she hugs her cousin, showing her the plane tickets. In Moscow, Lex stands with the Russian premier. The diplomat notes that Lex offered him information for a chance to view the alien. Perhaps you should sit down, Lex tells him, but the premier shakes his head. Yesterday, an alien man fell out of the sky. That was time for sitting down. Lex uses his hollow projector to explain the idea of the multiverse, and that the alien actually comes from one of these other realities. The premier nods, quickly sitting down. And Lex continues to explain that the debris that destroyed the Russian satellite last year was one of those destroyed Earths. A year ago, I would not have believed such things, but now. The premier notes as the two men take a drink of vodka. But enough of such things, he notes, motioning for Lex to follow him as he punches in the codes to open the security shield. The viewport opens up, revealing the Monitor, restrained in the next room. The being turns, staring at Lex through the glass. Outside, Clark Kent crosses the tarmac, waving to the Red Rocket Brigade. I know Lex didn't take the time to thank you all for your efforts up there, he tells them, and the commander removes his helmet, revealing a face that Clark recognizes. At least you are a polite American, Mr. The Russian asks, Alexei? That is my name too, the commander laughs. And Clark quickly explains that he means he recognizes the man from the report of Superman saving the station. My name's Clark Kent, Daily Planet. Alexei nods and the two men move towards the hangar bay and out of the cold. Here to chronicle the excesses of rich men with too much time on their hands, he asks. And Clark asks the man if he means anyone in particular, but Alexei shakes his head. It's not my place to judge, merely to serve our sovereign nation. As a superhero? Clark asks, motioning to the armor. If I have taken anything from Superman, it's that all heroes can be super. We are merely doing our jobs. Clark smiles at the man. I'm sure it would be humbling to hear. Alexei explains that the Rocket Reds have stopped several meteors from striking Russian soil. Heaven loves Russia so much, it's always giving us things, he calls out, motioning to the sky. Clark nods, asking about the rumors that the latest meteor wasn't a rock but a spaceman, and Alexei nods. Yes, he was not large enough to show up on our radar. Suddenly the man pauses. But I've said too much. You will not quote me on that, will you? Clark nods, patting the man on the back, letting him know that he's sure that there will be much more interesting things on this trip. He then scans the area, finding the Monitor being held in his prison. In the chamber, Lex is standing before the Monitor, promising that their conversation will be private. Welcome to Earth, though something tells me this isn't your first time. Thank you, Lex. My reputation precedes me, Mr. Raylon, and you have no idea, Raylon tells him. Lex nods, telling him that they are working on a chamber to hold him at LexCorp, until we can figure out how to reunite you with your people if any survived the destruction of that parallel Earth. But anger flashes through Raylon's eyes. We do not hail from the filth that lingers at the bottom of the bleed. I have only chosen to descend from my point of observation to initiate your reckoning. Now, Ray, that's the kind of attitude that won't get you any favors in the US of A. Lex tells him, leaning forward. He then turns to go, offering to leave the being to rot, but Raylon's words give him pause, as he tells him that he knows what is happening to this world. I know how you are different from your designate. He offers to refill the cup of Lex's mind, to return the memories that were lost to him. In exchange for what? Lex asks with a raised eyebrow. Outside, Clark and the Rocket Brigade have reached their hangar, where Alexei tells Clark that he is not permitted. Even the mighty Rocket Red Brigade must rest. You do not have clearance, he notes, holding out his hand. Clark nods, shaking it. I understand. And finally, Alexei asks him if he can do him a favor. If you ever bump into the Man of Steel again, please tell him that Alexei once again thanks him for saving his life. Clark nods, promising that he will, when suddenly the group is interrupted as alarms begin to blare through the station. Alexei orders Clark to return to the panic bunker as the brigade suits up quickly. They launch themselves over the hangar, but some are shot out of the sky as a blast hits the team. The rest form up, aiming their weapons at Raylon. "Visitor from beyond, we do not want to hurt you." "Trust me, you will," Raylan tells them, his weapons powering up. Meanwhile, over in Gotham, Lois and Chloe pull up to the curb, with Chloe asking if it's the right place. "Oh, this is the right place," Lois notes, stepping out of the car, looking at the man hanging from the roof above them. Victor Zsasz is screaming in the pouring rain as Batman holds him over a ledge. "I'm on parole! I'm behaving!" he yells, and the duo pull him back onto the roof, questioning him about the killing. But Zsasz tells them that they don't know how to feel about the whole Xeno thing yet. If you already have a working slur in place, then you know how you feel about things, Nightwing tells him, charging up her Eskrima sticks. Batman scans Zaz's face with his visor, ordering Nightwing to stand down. "Heart rate, pupil dilation, he's telling the truth," he tells her, and he pushes the man away, ordering him to check in with his parole officer. "Don't tell me the big bad Batman has gone soft," Lois notes from under her umbrella. "Lane? Sullivan Queen? How?" Batman questions, but as Lois tosses him a phone, Chloe notes that his encryption isn't as good as he thinks. Plus, all the screaming. Later, the group stand in the Batcave with Chloe looking around in awe. "Okay, now I'm impressed. I understand why you weren't interested in getting the Watchtower hub installed in town." "He has a submarine," Lois whispers, peering over one of the ledges into the waters below. Alfred walks up offering refreshments that Bruce recommended, and Lois questions how the man could know that she likes coffee. "I'm pretty sure he knows way more about us than we do about him," Chloe tells her. "Oh, he's got profiles in everyone," Barbara tells them as she towels off her hair. The women fill them in on the fact that something is bothering Bruce about this death that they found in the city. "I don't like variables," he tells them, and he informs them that the body's fingerprints do not match any agency anywhere. The computer beeps though, revealing the facial recognition software has finished, and the images appear on the screen with the women looking at the results in shock. "What the hell, Batman?" Lois asks as they look at an image of Clark Kent. Back in Moscow, Alexei screams for his men to hold the line as they launch rockets at the Monitor. But Raylan waves his hands and the missiles explode against the shield. His weapons morph into a cannon and he begins to open fire on the armored soldiers. "Why are you doing this?" Lex screams, running over, waving his hands. But Raylan turns to him, disappointed that Lex doesn't know that these people are little more than bugs. "You are truly unworthy of the regard that your designate has acquired over the multiverse," he tells him, raising his cannon and aiming it at Lex. "Embrace order!" But Raylan is then thrown aside as Superman collides with him from behind. The Monitor smiles back at him. "This is good sport. I can't wait to see how inferior this world Superman is as well." But Superman cracks him across the jaw, throwing the Monitor to the ground. He shoots his heat vision and the Monitor opens up a portal and the blast hits Clark from behind. The Monitor then charges and the two lock together in a struggle, with Superman demanding to know what the crisis is. "Oh, you mean you don't know?" Raylan laughs, but his smile disappears as the Man of Steel headbutts him. "Illuminate me!" he snarls, but both men stumble, staggered by the force of the blow. Raylan then turns, firing his cannon into the building, dropping debris on the Brigade and Lex. Superman moves fast, pulling them out of danger, but when he finally stops moving, he's shocked to find that blood is dripping from his head. "How the hell did he hurt me?" Clark whispers as he stares at the blood in his hands. "Can you hear me, Superman?" Lex screams as Superman clutches his head, blood running between his fingers. "Why are you just standing there?" "Taking a breath, Luthor," the Man of Steel whispers, telling the group that they all should take a breath. Turning to Alexei, the commander of the Red Rocket Brigade, he tells him that medical is on the way. "Good," Superman states, launching himself into the air. Streaking upwards, he finally breaks through the clouds overhead, basking in the warm light of the sun. "Oh, that's more like it." His comms begin to beep and the static voice of Tess finally breaks through. "Finally!" she shouts from inside the Watchtower over at Metropolis. "Is everything okay on your side of the world?" Clark lets her know that he's been better, and she lets him know that she's been watching the action. Enlisted the help of a comms expert called the Ray, who can recalibrate the USGS Keyhole satellite to at least get a visual on your location. "I'm sorry for not helping you out earlier," but Clark lets her know that that's not important. Of greater concern are two things. One, where is our fallen Monitor escaping to? Two, how the hell was he able to hurt me? He tells her that and then he flies back down to Earth. Back at the base, Lex is crossing the tarmac yelling for Otis, when suddenly one of the doors bursts outward and Clark stumbles into him. "Kent, I suppose you ran so far from danger that you circled back around?" he asks. "Is it over?" Not even the mighty Superman was able to stop the creature from beyond. Luthor tells him, and Clark nods, holding up his recorder. For the sake of accurate reporting, why did you fly all the way to the other side of the globe to see this creature from beyond, and how exactly did the being escape from your custody to begin with? Clark asks him, but Lex stares at him for a moment before answering. You've got nerve, Kent. I like that. That's about all I like, but something's better than nothing. Finally, Otis steps up to interrupt, explaining that LexCorp is tracking the Monitor's movements through his portals, tears in the fabric of reality. Continue. Otis nods, telling Lex that the Monitor finally stopped, and Lex nods, taking the phone, showing it to the Premier. But the man shakes his head. That area is abandoned for a very specific reason. If it has anything to do with our wayward guest, I refuse to touch it. Lex nods, taking Clark and pushing him towards the Jeep that sits nearby. Looks like it's just you and me, Kent. I really think that I got all I need for my story, Clark tries to explain. Nonsense. Things have barely gotten interesting. Otis tries to explain to Lex that he can come with, but the billionaire tells him no. Stay put. Stay safe. You I need. I won't lose any sleep if something happens to Kent. And there you have it, our cliffhanger for Smallville, Volume 6, Part 2. The Monitor's running around, telling them that a crisis is coming and Superman needs to stop it. Boy, this sounds convenient, like something else that's happening in the Arrowverse right now. Don't forget to let us know in the comments down below if you're enjoying the Smallville Season 11 storyline. Tell me on Twitter at Comicstorian, and don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. I'll let you know next Sunday when we do the next part of this. If you want to see how they resolve the Monitor in the Smallville comic, then you're going to need to watch the show. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time right here.